been a while. The last video I put up was like a welcome to COVID, things are weird, throwback to family. And I've recorded a few videos that I should probably turn into something that, that gets published. And then I decided to make a 20-foot tall illuminated dancing Christmas tree. And it was so rushed and so last minute that I barely got any footage of it. So it probably shouldn't be a video, but it turned out pretty cool. So maybe after seeing this little clip, you'll understand why I'm throwing this video together. Yeah, so that's what we made. My girlfriend, a friend of ours from Brazil who came up, and myself, over a period of 3 weeks or so, went from scrap aluminum to a 20-foot tall dancing Christmas tree. And it's one of those projects that you think you've got it all figured out. You're like, how hard is it really, right? They're all hexagons, all the tiers are hexagons, so all you gotta do, you're making the same angle cut every time, you're just making them bigger, and you just gotta weld them together, and it's the same light for all the tiers. How hard could it be? Could be really, really hard. The time, effort, money, revisions, everything that went into this, absolutely nuts. We had the tree put up on Christmas Eve, and we didn't get it properly dancing until March 20th. Yeah, that's right. Good thing I live in Canada, so there's still snow on the ground in March. Otherwise, me having a Christmas tree in my front lawn in March would be even more ridiculous than it is here. Up until very recently, I've been referring to it as a 20-foot tall monument to my failure because I put so much time and effort into making this thing dance, and it never danced until about 2 days ago. So if you don't care about how this stuff is made, if all you care about is, hey, there's a cool tree, you heard something about it, you saw a video about it, and you want to see it dance, check the video in the link description. It will just show you the tree dancing. If you're interested in actually seeing how it came to be, with what little footage I actually recorded while I was making this, then stick around and we'll walk you through it. As is usually the case with my projects, it starts with 3D modeling. So let's jump into the design and I'll show you how it got started. So as you can see here, the concept here is a bunch of hexagons on top of each other, and those hexagons were designed to be the same size, the same height and depth as an aluminum C4 channel. So that's an aluminum channel that is 4 inches tall, and then in our case it was 2 inches deep. And that channel is in the shape of a C, so it allows us to run LEDs on the inside of the channel, so the light shines outside of that C shape, and then we laser cut a panel of acrylic on the outside. So this all sounds really simple, but as you can see from the design here, you start counting how many angles are on each tier and how many tiers there are, and then you can understand how this little project became a multi-week project with many people helping out. So each of these tiers contains hundreds of LEDs, and then those LEDs are all connected to the frame with a linear actuator. So if we zoom in here, they're kind of, if you're not familiar with linear actuators, think of like hydraulics or pneumatics, but instead of being driven by air or water, they're being driven by electricity, so a series of gears. So these little rods here represent the linear actuators, and you can see that they're all at the exact same angle. By doing that, we can try to have the same, very similar control between tiers. And knowing the length of the linear actuator, we know basically every actuator is going to be this long, so the difference between how long the actuator is and how long this part is in my 3D model tells me how long to cut the aluminum tube, which goes around the linear actuator to make up the difference in length. Now, what made us most proud of our design here is that we designed the entire tree to run using just 4 wires. So we've got 3 linear actuators and hundreds of LEDs on every single tier of this tree, but the tree, each tier, only has 4 wires. So we've got a ground that's common to everything. We've got power, which you've got 24 volts coming in. And that's just, the higher the voltage, basically the more power you can send through smaller wires. So that allows us to put a decent amount of power through small wires. And then we have a data in, which is basically just like, you know, the light data coming in, telling each LED what to do. And then we have data out. And that's what comes out of that tier, up the tree trunk and into the next tier. So that's how we managed it. We've got power going to everything, both the LEDs and linear actuators, data coming in, it goes through the whole perimeter, and then it goes out. And this is a custom circuit board that we designed to allow us to do that. So basically this takes our 24 volts, breaks it down into the voltage that the linear actuators need, as well as the voltage that the LEDs need, and allows basically LED data, so the brightness data for our RGB LEDs to be converted into motion. So basically we have, if that tier as an example had 123 LEDs, we basically just pretend there was 124 LEDs, one extra, and then each one of these LEDs, as you probably know, they're referred to as RGB addressable. Red, green, blue in the computer industry, they just talk about it, you know, if you've got a custom computer case, does it have RGB? That refers to red, green, blue. Red, green, blue, of course, is 3 channels, red, green, and blue. And our tiers, as you can see in the 3D model here, have 3 linear actuators, 1, 2, and 3. So this is where we thought we were getting really clever, is we took a single color, like a single pixel of data, broke it into its red, green, and blue component, sent the data for red to one linear actuator, green to the next, and blue to the next. So that meant that if you told that pixel to turn red, nothing went to the color red, but that tier, one linear actuator moves. Blue would be this one instead. Green would be this one instead. So white is all of them on. Black is off. Purple would be red and blue, right? So if you put a rainbow, just like a progressing rainbow, you know, Roy G. Biv, to this tier, it would oscillate like this. And we thought that was really clever, but the PCBs weren't all that well designed. Entirely my mistake. After consulting everybody I knew about how to make these work and taking from my own experience from LED props and helmet design and things, I analyzed all the available information and decided that whether these things work or not is completely down to black magic. I don't get it. It seems like there's just too much going on, but there are smarter people than me that are available to figure that stuff out and help me get through those hard times. So the result is we made a stack of these boards. The first ones didn't work very well, so we made a second stack of boards. They worked a little bit better, and then we really honed in on the programming and tuned the programming, and now we have it working. Yeah, would not recommend you undertake this on your own, but after a few revisions, we have designed something that we're really proud of. So basically how this works is you've got the main data coming into the main board, and then these guys just break off. So this is where the data comes in. You got those 4 connections right there, so that's where your power, ground, data in and data out would be. And then that data just progresses through the LED strip. So the LED strip just connects right there. And if you're familiar with LED strips, you might look at this and be like, oh, why are there 4 wires? You know, don't RGB LEDs typically have 3? And there's kind of 2 answers to that. There's one type of LED that does actually use 4 pins, and it has a clock cycle that's always on 1 pin. That's not this type. This is a standard LED that's regularly referred to as a WS28, 11, 12, whatever, or a NeoPixel, but these ones are redundant. So basically, the data from every pixel is sent to the next 2 pixels. So any one pixel can die, and the data continues going on. Because with most RGB LEDs, they're kind of like old Christmas lights. If you have one bad bulb, it affects the whole chain. So with these ones, you have to have 2 in a row to go bad to make a problem, and that's what makes this one different. So these guys are WS2813 LEDs, and we went the extra mile to put in that extra data to try and get a little bit more bulletproof and reliability out of this, because it's going to be out in -40 and lifting and moving and teetering even in -40 up here in northern Alberta, Canada. So yeah, that's the idea behind that. So, looking at the tree here, you can see that we've got a bunch of different tiers. We've got linear actuators going to each one, and then right up at the top we have this star. And I want to tell you about the star, even though our final one doesn't, our final tree, the one in the video, doesn't include it. I have to talk about it because I have this. This is the type of linear actuator that we used for all of the tiers, but as you can tell, this one is massive. There's no way I can even get that whole thing in the shot. The idea behind this guy is that this was going to be inside the core of the tree, and the star was going to go on the top of this. So this would allow me to lift the star up and down 3 feet above the tree. And maybe next year I'll get this guy installed. But yeah, and then the next kind of cool thing about these linear actuators, what makes these ones different, is they're a 6-wire linear actuator instead of a standard 2-wire linear actuator. And the difference there is that these guys have a Hall effect sensor in them. What that means is basically when the motor moves, there's a little magnet that recognizes that it's moving and in what direction, so that we can calculate exactly where it is. So this means we're not just telling the motor to go up or down, we're telling it to go to a very specific location. So basically we have locational accuracy with our linear actuators, so we don't just have up or down as a setting, we can go middle, we can control the speed of movement, everything. And again, our circuit boards have that built in. So I showed you one of the big boards that breaks down. These are some of the side boards that are populated, and you'll see the bottom 6 connections there, that's for that. So those connect right into the linear actuator. So that these boards, we have one right in the middle, and then one 1/3 of the way this way, one 1/3 of the way this way, and then you have one linear actuator connected to each one of them, with only 4 wires coming from this guy down to the main trunk. So yeah, we were very, very proud of that, and we're happy with how well it worked. That's gonna change to rainbow any second. Hey! Well, you've listened to me blab here for a long while, so how about we start showing you some visuals. I've talked about, you know, the trunk a little bit, and I've talked about the tiers a little bit, but here's a little montage of how that trunk was transported. We actually built wheels for it so that it could be pulled behind a car like a trailer. And then we have another circuit board that's designed to strap on top, right down the middle of the trunk. And that's what each tier connects to that allows the data to go to the next tier and the next tier and the next tier. So now that we've talked about how the tree worked, let's talk a little bit about how it assembles and disassembles. So it was designed so that each tier could come down and go up fairly easily. Basically, we knew this was going to be a big, heavy, and difficult thing to assemble, so we tried to make it modular where every piece could go together really easily. So those circuit boards that go up the middle just have a basic aviation connector, so each tier just connects with a single plug and threads on. And then the linear actuators connect, they're of course the thing holding each tier up. they connect to the tree trunk. There's just one of these bolted into each of the each location on the trunk all the way up. And then we have like a little alligator or like crab claw clamp, the ones that kind of loop over and separate. And those were on the end of every linear actuator, so you can literally just have somebody lift up the tier, have it in the right area, open up the little alligator thing or the crab thing, and then just snick it in to the eye bolts on the beam. So there was 36 of these going up the beam, and then of course the little clamps on the end of every rod. The main trunk itself we actually built wheels for. So it was designed so that we could just take out the bottom eyelet, just thread it out, and replace it with a bolt. And then that bolt just went through this little piece of aluminum that had 2 wheels on it, and that converted our core into a trailer. So we could just put it in the back of a car and, you know, carefully drive it perfectly legally the few kilometers between my shop and our home. Our home being the place that my girlfriend and I bought on Candy Cane Lane. A few months ago, we bought this house, and this particular street in our hometown is where all the Christmas stuff happens. It's where all the crazy displays happen. And me, you know, being the majority of my business being lighting and stuff like that, I took the initiative upon myself to be a significant part of the Candy Cane Lane display, and as I'm sure you've noticed by this point, there's a song by that same name. And of course, being that there is a song by that same name, the name of the street that we live on, it was critical that not only do I animate for it, but I had to own the rights to this song. And because I had to pay for the rights to this song in order to put on this video, every time I say Candy Cane Lane, you're gonna have to put up with that because I need to get my money's worth. So on Christmas Eve 2021, we got a bunch of friends together, and we connected. It was like -23 outside, and we connected the trailer. We got everything hooked up. We hauled it back home, and we got a bunch of our friends on Christmas Eve to help us put up this ridiculous tree and show it off for the first time. So here's a quick video of us putting it up. Now it's about at this point that we realized that the amount of power that the tree needed when every single tier was connected. Keep in mind that like setting this thing up, like getting that pole up and getting the cables tension and everything was a very difficult task. At least not something I could do on my own with a little bit of help I had here. So Christmas Eve was the first time we ever set it up and ever got everything connected. So it was pulling more power than it ever had before, and we had a bit of issue with, you know, because the bottom tiers pull the most power, we were getting a bit of unstable voltage by the time it got to the top, so it was doing some weird stuff. And that's why I am now talking to you in March. So more than 3 months have gone by, and now we still have this thing set up, and now of course we have it working properly. So just last night, for the first time, my fiance and I were able to run the show, everything moving, everything dancing, everything working as we hoped it would on day one. So finally, we have a show that we can be proud of on Candy Cane Lane.
Take a trip down Candy Cane Lane with me. It's the Christmas is waiting for you. Christmas is waiting for you. Red and yellow and pink and green, orange and purple and blue. Christmas is waiting for you. Christmas is waiting for you. Candy cane lane, bring a friend this holiday. Bring a friend who loves to play. We'll eat all the candy canes. Oh, candy cane lane, bring a friend this holiday. Bring a friend who loves to play. We'll eat all the candy canes. Oh, candy canes. We'll eat candy canes.
And of course, we made a miniature gingerbread house of our Christmas display with our tree and our real tree, but it didn't survive the trip. So here is our little miniature of what we made, what we're so proud of, even including our little deer. And finally, my fiance can get off my back and we can finally destroy this thing, because I wanted to hang on to this gingerbread monument to finish off this video, and I didn't expect that to be in March. So props to her for fighting through this with me and getting this far. To answer your inevitable questions, yes, of course it's made of gingerbread and candy. Yes, of course it was laser cut and like 3D modeled and everything. And no, laser cut gingerbread is not edible. Not even when it was done, let alone in March, however many months later. But like the tree, making this was a blast. We got the whole family involved as an over Christmas thing. It was amazing. Absolute shout out to my fiance, the management, to Igor, who came out from Brazil and ended up helping me through all of this, building all this. It would not have happened without him. And everyone else, Tristan, who took a little bit of personal, put himself on the line to help get the tree installed, the Englands, and everyone else who helped make this a reality. It was just an amazing thing to come together, and I'm so happy everyone is involved. And lastly, my mother. Oh my goodness, she came down, she worked till 5 o'clock in the morning helping getting like final wiring and panels in place on the 23rd of December, the day before Christmas Eve. It was just madness. So thank you so much to everybody who worked through that craziness and helped make this happen, made it come together. I'm hoping that I'll get a few more videos out in the near future, so if you like this kind of stuff, feel free to subscribe. If you have any questions, technical stuff that I wasn't able to get into or didn't talk about because I didn't have any footage about it, drop it down in the comments and I'll be sure to get back to you. Thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll have another video up soon. Bye!